Mr. Squidward. Welcome to the night shift.
We open up tonight's edition of The Night Shift, the MI6 Sports Network's late-night sports talk show. Callan, McClurg, folks, joining you for a solo performance right now on the night as Isaiah Leung has the night off after going out for a work event visiting with the Oakland A's and, of course, his fellow coworkers. Though, folks, we again are following a developing story in the NBA following the conclusion of tonight's game between the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. A source close to ESPN sources, Malika Andrews, and also Tim Bontemps, has put out a update to a story that we have been following before the program went on air tonight, that a Boston Celtics fan who allegedly hurled a water bottle towards Nets player Kyrie Irving following the game tonight at the Garden as he was leaving the court following Brooklyn's victory over the Celtics has in fact been arrested, and per other reports, a league source also tells ESPN that fan could be facing a lifetime ban from TD Garden as the water bottle that was hurled Irving's way nearly missed his head. He was walking towards the Nets tunnel following his 39-point performance, which helped Brooklyn get a 3-1 lead in the series over the Celtics. When Irving was asked about the incident, Irving says that you can see that people just feel very entitled out here. They paid for their tickets. Great. I'm grateful that they're coming in to watch a great performance, but we're not at the theater. We're not throwing tomatoes and other random stuff at the people that are performing that are performing. Close quote. A TD Garden spokesperson said via a statement following the conclusion of the game tonight as well that we will support and provide assistance to Boston police at this incident. As the incident is currently under review, we have zero tolerance for violations of our guest code of conduct, and the guest is subject to a lifetime ban from TD Garden, close quote. This does, though, folks, become, or still, though, is part of this ongoing domino effect, as, in fact, fans have been brought back into NBA arenas, though, in the most recent event, and a slew of ongoing issues and incidents of fans throwing items or hurling bodily fluids towards players. This also comes on the heels, as we know, of Wizards guard Russell Westbrook being pelted by a carton of popcorn dumped on him by a fan in Philadelphia at Wells Fargo Arena when he was walking through a tunnel at Wells Fargo Center last week. Also, Hawks guard Trae Young was spat upon by a fan inside of Madison Square Garden. And also T. Morant, the father of Grizzlies guard John Morant, said that several fans in Salt Lake City had directed racial slurs at him and his wife while attending the game at the Vivint Smart Home Arena. And while the bottle was thrown Sunday night, Irving and his teammate Tyler Johnson immediately stopped and looked up into the stands, with Irving declined to give the specifics on the back and forth. Irving would also add on to his quote by saying that you're seeing a lot of old ways come up. It has been that way in history in the terms of entertainment, performers, and sports for a long period of time, and just underlining racism and just treating people like they're in a human zoo, throwing stuff at people, saying things. There's a certain point where it gets to be too much. And also as well, again, folks, we are following that story, again, per reports gathered from ESPN sources, both Malika Andrews and Tim Bontemps, who've been following this situation somewhat closely over the past couple of hours. But again, to reiterate, a Celtics fan who hurled a water bottle in the direction of Kyrie Irving following the game on Sunday has in fact been arrested, and also per a TD Garden spokesperson, that fan is also subject to a lifetime ban from all events at the Garden. As also, as we have said, though, folks, this is on the heels, though, of 3 other incidents, though, involving NBA players, again, having some spats with NBA fans. But again, we'll keep you folks posted on that story as in fact our show goes on, and in fact we have more time to get to more of those incidents going on. And also as well, at this rate, James Gonzalez pops from the great point. Maybe fans should not have been brought back as of yet. I do believe, James, now I don't know the full scope of this story here, but I do believe, though, but I heard a story, I should say, that yesterday, per, I believe, one of the stations I listen to frequently here in San Diego on Rock 105.3, that apparently the Jazz have already come out and said, we're not letting anybody back inside of Vivint Smart Home Arena because of this incident. So I think it may in fact, though, be about fans being back too early, though. But I do think that while it's been great, though, having fans back, though, but once more, we're kind of, again, having to kind of cross that line, though, in regards to, that player and fan interaction, again, kind of coming back to fruition after a year and a half of not being able to have that sort of interaction, good or bad. I also, folks, want to read this quote, though, put out courtesy of ESPN as well. This comes in from Kevin Durant about the spat or the incident tonight. Kevin Durant, when asked tonight, he says, quote unquote, "We are not in the circus. Your mother would not be proud of you throwing water bottles at basketball players. Grow the bleep up and enjoy the game. It's bigger than you." Close quote. This somewhat, though, I think, everyone, I don't want to put, blame this on the venues for allowing fans back. Because I think, like I said, though, folks, last night, the Boston Bruins played the first NHL game in 14 months at full capacity, not with, reduced capacity. Yeah, there were some tarps still up, though, by the bench area, but it was a full house, though, at TD Garden, though, and I'm sure it was the same way tonight, though, in Boston for the Celtics game. But here we go once more at this rate, though, in regards to, players and fans, once again, going the route, though, of that. But again, folks, we'll keep you posted about that if anything more comes out. But once more, as a reminder, but again, the Celtics, again, and some minor hot water here after, again, a fan was seen hurling a water bottle in the direction of Kyrie Irving following Brooklyn's decisive 141-126 victory on Sunday, has been arrested and also, per a TD Garden spokesperson, per the reports gathered from ESPN and other leaked sources, that the fan is also subject to a potential lifetime ban from TD Garden as well. Some more thoughts real quick about this as well. James says, wow, about that Jazz decision. And also our good man, Brandon Herrera from Coast to Coast Entertainment says, Cal, fans need to grow up. Brandon, I agree. And I think, though, that while people probably have their thoughts about Kyrie Irving and how he carries himself, though, Kyrie and Kevin Durant, I think, hit the nail right on the head, though. Yeah, it's nice to have the fans back, though, but let's remember, though, these guys are human. You may not like them because of what they do on the court, what they say off the court about certain issues that you probably don't see eye to eye with, though, but they're human just like us, though. And I think that Naomi Osaka has, over in tennis, she has her own little thing right now where she's not talking to the media, much like Kyrie Irving was not going to do this season. She's, she's been fined. She might be facing a potential default by the French Open for not talking to the media. But that we as sports fans forget that these players, these athletes, that they're big name celebrities, they're big name, that we all know. Either we love them or we love and hate them or we hate them, but regardless, that we know about them. But they are human like us. They do, in fact, they have families, they have feelings, they have lives. But let's not ruin it for everybody here in Boston. I know, of course, that's a town that lives and dies with their sports franchises. But let's not stain the reputation of the fans that are just now being able to go back to live events across the country. Again, you guys literally last night had the first professional NHL hockey game played at 100% capacity. Don't ruin it for the rest of your fan base in Boston. I know I'm probably, speaking on deaf ears right now, but let's not ruin this for everybody else because of these incidents. And I also agree, though, or think that perhaps at the NBA, though, that they have tried their best, though, but I think more needs to be done, though, to perhaps keep these guys, away from the crowd, away from what's gone on, of course, in regards to these incidents. But again, we'll keep an eye on that, folks, and not too much of a big ordeal. But again, once more, the Celtics, again, due to the nature of a fan throwing a water bottle in the general direction of Kyrie Irving, per reports, again, arrested, and again, could be facing a potential ban from all events, or at least from perhaps Celtics games at TD Garden down in Boston, Massachusetts. Casey is asking, so Cal, Jazz are going to go with no fans rest of the way? Casey, I didn't really hear the whole clip or hear the whole story, but I believe what I had gathered is that they're going to go at least for the remainder of the first round, I think, without spectators. I think that, and I think we all know, everybody, it just takes one person, one bad apple to ruin it for the rest of all of us. And here, one person who screwed up in Salt Lake City has ruined it for the Jazz fan base, who again will see their number, who's not going to be able to see the number one seeded ball club in the NBA's Western Conference, play with spectators because of one fan's utter stupidity. So again, we'll see how things do in fact go at this rate. Also, James Gonzalez says that these fans doing bad things spoils it for us good fans again. And like I said, though, James, I hoped and pray that this one lunatic's, mess up here doesn't ruin it for the rest of the Celtic fan base. And for that matter, Bruin fans, who again hopefully we'll get a chance to, of course, see their team play Game 2. And again, as we said, though, that they are in fact that last night was the first NHL game played at full capacity for the Bruins versus the Islanders last night. Christy Wilson chimes in to say that idiots ruining things for those of us who generally enjoy live sporting events. Taylor Ogata says that they need to step up security beyond the metal detectors at each entrance. I do, in fact, think, though, Taylor, maybe much like what we see, though, after college football games or NFL games, you need to have some very, high-ranking police officials, I think, or even, maybe not the National Guard or the local or or the state guard, but like high-ranking police officers or the sheriffs, kind of in a way following these guys to the locker room, regardless if it's with the training staff or they've been ejected from the ball game. They need to get, I think, some better protections. I think we know, though, of course, that sometimes when guys get kicked out of a ball game, that fans will run down to the tunnel, and point and jeer and say you suck and stuff like this. But again, that fine line, Taylor, I talk about this a lot, though, about fan misconduct. That fine line can't be crossed. I know this probably will sound stupid to you guys, but I really don't jeer or don't, boo nowadays with the opposition, mainly because of my job security. But I mean, yesterday I had a little bit of fun just telling a guy on New York City FC at the game I went to yesterday, hey, I got it. And the guy screwed up with the ball and LAFC took possession, something like that to kind of be, somewhat in a way, having some fun. But again, not going to that line, though, where things could get very out of control, though. Again, I think, though, when fans stoop down to the personal level, making it personal, whether it, maybe in Kyrie's case about, maybe some racism or some slurs or some, foul language. Okay, maybe that probably is where you have to kind of back off. But I do think that Taylor's right, though, that they perhaps just need to see probably have a bit more of a better stringent security presence around the teams, both home and away at games, especially with how we've seen these incidents going on in the NBA, at least recently. James also says, I don't like Kyrie's actions either or his words, but I'm not throwing things or insults at him. Or again, as we said, though, James and Sally, I think, though, sadly, sometimes I think it also boils down, though, to the city, though, that they're playing their games in as a away opponent. Obviously, Boston's a very sacred NBA town, LA, Chicago, there's certain markets that, of course, that there's a fan base that obviously despises organizations. And also, I think, though, as well, that with the building rivalry between Boston and Brooklyn, it kind of, I think, boils over and hopefully, though, that cooler heads prevail. Casey King also says, Cal, that these fans remind me too much of the Vancouver Canucks as they throw beer at opposing teams' fans. I had beer thrown on me at a game a few years ago when I went to see the Kings play Vancouver in Vancouver and had beer thrown on me again after the Kings beat them. The Canuck fans have been doing that for many, many years. I thankfully, Case, I'm not seeing too many incidents at NHL games. Considering the fact I've gone to a number of Ducks-Kings games, I've not seen a lot of bad blood boil over. And I'm actually kind of, and I applaud both teams for or both fan bases. Maybe a couple of bad eggs, but nothing too serious. But I think, like I said, though, Casey, when you go to certain games, and also I think, though, if it's especially, though, the playoffs, when things get magnified by 1,000, that's where things get very, very out of control. And also, Christy Wilson says that my favorite wrestling promotion, All Elite Wrestling, just held their first pay-per-view event tonight in front of a full crowd for the first time in months. Great to hear that. And also, Brandon Herrera also says, just remember the fight in Detroit, a.k.a. the Malice at the Palace. James also says, I just boo my own team when they play bad or they make a bad play. I mean, I think a lot of times that happens, James, too, especially like in an NBA game or a basketball game when your team is only scoring 30 points and you boo them off the floor. Christy Wilson also says, I've gotten a little bit mad at my team when they made a bad play, but I don't boo them entirely or take it to a lower level. And also James says, I'm truly concerned whenever a player is hurt, no matter who it is. Clap when they get up is all that I ask. I cannot agree any further. But once more, folks, before we move on here, again, as mentioned, but once more, again, the NBA having another spat, sadly, with fans crossing that line after a Celtics fan was seen throwing a water bottle in the general direction of Kyrie Irving after the game tonight between the Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. To the NBA scoreboard, though, to kick off tonight's night shift program after the developing story, the Atlanta Hawks hosting the New York Knicks tonight from State Farm Arena down there in Atlanta, Georgia. And tonight, the Atlanta Hawks are now a game away and a win away from round two as they knock off the Knicks tonight at home. 113-96 Atlanta over New York tonight from State Farm Arena. The Knicks, though, a very good game, though, just fell a bit short, though, tonight. Led tonight by Julius Randle, who had 23 points. In this ball game, R.J. Barrett, 21 points, and also Derrick Rose chipped in 18, while Obi Toppin chipped in 13 off the bench, as did Alec Burks, who chipped in 12, though, while the Hawks, though, had a very balanced scoring attack tonight as 4 of their 5 starters were in double figures tonight. John Collins, 22 points, Clint Capella with 10, Trae Young, though, with 27 points, and Bogdan Bogdanovic chips in 12, while Danilo Gallinari was chipped in 21 points, was also 8 for 8, as was John Collins from the free throw line, as Atlanta's team was 26 of 28 from the charity stripe tonight in this game over Atlanta. As again, the Hawks now go up 3-1 over the Knicks going into game 5 back at the Garden in New York City. You know, folks, Atlanta, I think, I don't want to say they have it in the bag, though, but that Atlanta, I think, is about to, kind of pull off that first upset again, 4 versus 5. I think that Trevor Williams has said it right, though, in regards to, that the 4 and 5 matchup is so close in with how the teams are. But that Atlanta, I think, though, they've been getting contributions from everybody across the board. I'd say all series. Again, I don't know if I'm really, speaking of the gospel here, but I do think, though, that Atlanta, though, with Trae Young, again, having that great first game, though, and of course they end up, having the Knicks tie the series, is that I think ever since game 2, into game 3 and game 4, that Atlanta kind of saw that they were kind of in a bit of a sticky situation, being, one game tied at 1. But it seems like, though, but since then, and with these last 2 wins, though, it's been a better balanced scoring attack for the Atlanta Hawks. Let's just kind of go through the box score again real quick. Collins, 22 points, 6 of 10 shooting, 2 of 3, 8 of 8. Capella, 10 points, 4 of 6, no threes, and then 2 for 4 from the free throw line. Trae Young may have struggled a little bit today, though. 9 of 21, 4 of 14, 5 for 5, 27 points, though, still for Trae Young. Even then, though, with a bad shooting night, though, still. Even then, though, at this rate, Trae Young still finishes plus 17. I mean, that's pretty good, though, when you're having a very bad night shooting the basketball and you're still able to finish in in the positive figures, though, in plus minus. But then Bogdanovic is an absolute beast from beyond the arc, 4 of 11, 4 of 9, no free throws, but also, again, had 12 points. But again, he's plus 29 in that efficiency stat for Atlanta. We're with the Knicks, though, tonight. A bit of a tough stretch, though. And I think there was, that probably, I don't know about you folks out there, I'm a little bit, scratching my head a little bit about Taj Gibson and Reggie Bullock starting this game. I don't know really how to feel about this because Bullock did not score any points today. Went 0 for 4 and 0 for 7 and was also minus 16 tonight and plus minus. And then Taj Gibson can only get you 6 points to start, though. I really wonder, though, if Tom Thibodeau goes to the well and changes his lineup for game 5 coming up back at the Garden. Because I don't know, though, against Atlanta as well, if they're hitting their shots. You can't afford, I think, to have 2 players combined for 6 points and 1 player gets shut out in 34 minutes. Reggie Bullock plays 34 minutes and does not score a single basket in this ballgame, plus a turnover, 2 assists, 4 rebounds. So again, folks, give me your thoughts here more. So if you're the Knicks right now, do you keep that same lineup and hope that they get going? Or do you perhaps go the route, though, of changing up this lineup? I just don't know, though, right now, if you can rely on Bullock and rely on Gibson, who did not give you much in this game tonight, and only get 6 points. I mean, I know, of course, that Toppin had 13 points. Burks had 12. Do you perhaps, though, with, folks, give me your thoughts here. With, 1 game away from elimination, if you're Tom Thibodeau, do you keep the same lineup as tonight, or do you go the route of trying your best to change it up like you have to win this game? I mean, obviously, you have to win the game, otherwise you're going to be gone and out of the postseason. But I do think, though, that with tonight's performance, though, I would tweak the lineup a little bit. Maybe give Toppin a chance to start somewhere. Maybe move somebody from a spot to a different spot in the lineup, though. but we'll see what happens. But again, it is Atlanta over New York tonight, 113-96 in favor of the Hawks over the New York Knickerbockers from State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Plenty of thoughts here tonight at this rate. Brandon says, Callan is going solo. Yes, sir, I am going to be going solo tonight because of Isaiah not being here. And you know what? Why not? I mean, I haven't been able to host any of these programs for a long time, so I'll take it while I can. James also says, you have to think the series is over at least in 6. I would probably say 6, James. I think that if the Knicks can battle back and get Game 5, though, Atlanta and that crowd and the energy from that arena is going to be probably in their corner. I kind of like Atlanta in 6 right now. I'll probably agree with you at that at this rate. Taylor also says that if the Thrashers didn't played like that, they wouldn't have moved to Winnipeg. I do, in fact, agree with that. But sadly, you know, Atlanta failed once and then failed twice, sadly, with the NHL. James also says that the Hawks crowd was amazing and no incidents, just pure celebration. Gotta love seeing that. And again, a huge crowd down there at State Farm Arena in ATL. James also says that the Hawks have so many shooters, what the Knicks really need. I think, though, James, where I probably go with my question, though, about do you keep the same lineup for the Knicks tonight or do you change it? I think right now you have to find a way to get bodies on guys who have had big games. Obviously, Young, you probably have to double team, maybe even throw a triple team at him, or you got to at least contain him. I think if the Knicks could somehow keep Trae Young at bay in Game 5, and like I said, though, as well, though, everybody, teams can't keep this kind of shooting up for an entire series. You know, maybe for one game. I don't think, though, that New York can really stop Trae Young, though, but they can stop Trae Young, though. They'll win Game 5. We'll see how things go. Also, Casey says that, man, I had the Knicks in 7, but, man, the Hawks are looking good. And it looks like they may, in fact, pull the series off. Again, we'll see, though, Case. I do like Atlanta's chances, but, again, going back to New York, though, we'll see. It'll be a very interesting storyline, though, to see how this happens, though. New York, I think they'll have to get off to a hot start. And I think, though, again, they'll have to find a way, Casey, to contain Trae Young. If they can't contain Trae Young, they're in deep, deep trouble. James also says that, man, Nate McMillan has done a great job since he took over in the ATL for Lloyd Pierce. I think, James, regardless of how Atlanta's season goes, that interim tag on for McMillan is going to be gone goodbye, and he'll be the new guy in charge of the Hawks for the remainder, or for the head coaching position for the Atlanta Hawks. James also says that Julius Randle has to be put on a milk carton. The guy has been missing this series. And here, though, James, he wins the Most Improved Player award. And sadly, sometimes when you win those awards, it kind of goes up here and it kind of affects the game as well. And James further adds on that hopefully the Garden crowd can give the Knicks a lift. Change the lineup a bit with new blood, starting the game with defense from the start. I like the idea. As I said, though, again, James, I think you really have to clamp down on Trae Young. If you don't clamp down on Trae Young, you are in for an extremely long night at home in Game 5. But once more, we'll see, though, what Tom Thibodeau likes to do. But again, it is Atlanta over the Knicks, 113-96. The Hawks now leave a series 3-1, heading into Game 5 back at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Back, folks, at the game that we broke up at the top of the show. But once more, again, everybody, with that whole ordeal with the Celtic fan, again, arrested for throwing the water bottle in the direction of Kyrie Irving after the ball game. The Nets get the win on the floor, though, 141-126. The Nets hold off the Celtics and now take their own 3-1 lead, though, after a monstrous night from 4 of their 5 starters. Kevin Durant leading the way, though, with 42 points, 14 of 20, 3 of 3, and 11 of 11 from the free throw line in the ball game, while Joe Harris adds 14. Again, Kyrie Irving with that aforementioned 39 points, and James Harden adds 23 as well in the game for the Nets, while the Celtics settle with a tough defeat, and even so again, but Jason Tatum again in a losing effort, 40 points in the game, while Marcus Smart and Evan Fournier combined for 16 points apiece. But again, the Celtics now with their backs to the wall after faltering 141-126. And again, folks, I don't know if there really has been someone more critical and perhaps a bit, overzealous or perhaps a little too negative on this Brooklyn Ball Club than yours truly. Because I think a lot of you out there, though, share the same sentiments that I shared or still share about would this, big three in Brooklyn mesh, and would they be able to get along, put the egos aside, not throw Steve Nash under the bus. And so far, though, Brooklyn is making a lot of people, myself included, eat their words about how unfair they played so far. And I know I also kind of bagged on the Nets though about, can they keep this hot shooting going though? Yes. Once more again, Kevin Durant 42 points, Joe Harris 14 points, Kyrie Irving 39 points, and also James Harden with 23 points. Brooklyn again, I believe right now that the entire Eastern Conference playoff field is going through Brooklyn because about how in fact that this team is impossible to guard. I mean, how in the world though does a team on the opposite side of the floor try to stack stack their players up and guard the likes of Durant and Irving, Joe Harris, Blake Griffin, James Harden? I mean, that starting five is just that starting five is beyond insane. Between Durant playing power forward, Griffin playing power forward, Joe Harris is your small forward, Irving, your PG, and then of course James Harden, your shooting guard. And all three, in the entire starting five at or above plus figures again. Durant +3, Griffin +12, Harris +17, Irving +15, Harden +8. Beyond imaginable, but again though, folks, I mean, I know I've said it several times though, but Brooklyn just seems to find a way though to hit triple digits almost every single night though. And again, I think it just mainly boils down though to that there's no way right now for a team to lock these guys down. Boston has had no luck stopping this Brooklyn offense. Yeah, they got one game, one win, but it's impossible still though right now to try to find a way to contain this, highly efficient and high octane offense for Brooklyn. But again, though, Jason Tatum, I got to give the guy a heck of a lot of credit though. Again, he puts up 40 points, but again, no other help. Again, Langford has 9 points. Tristan Thompson has 5 points. Smart has 16. Evan Fournier chips in 16, but again, not having Jaylen Brown, though, really, I think, is hurting this Boston ball club, though. And again, Jason Tatum is sadly right now a man on an island without having anyone in his corner right now at this rate. And again, the Celtics faltering and getting hammered once more by the Brooklyn Nets, 141-126 in favor of the Brooklyn Nets, who now go up 3-1 in the series. Plenty of thoughts at this rate. Casey King says that the Celtics are done. James Gonzalez, Celtics are done. They shouldn't even be playing or should not even play Game 5 in general. Taylor also says that the Nets will head to the finals with performances like that. Again, Taylor, it's more about, like I've said, though, can you keep that going, though, for an entire playoff stretch? Again, I know it's one series, but again, round 2, round 3, perhaps the NBA Finals, we'll see what happens. But so far, it's looking good so far for the Brooklyn Nets. James also says that the Nets' big three has worked out so far and has proved me wrong for now. We'll see if they have any issues as the playoffs and the playoff opponents get tougher as time goes, as time goes on. James also adds on, if the Nets don't win the finals, it'll be a major failure with all that talent on that roster. I definitely think so. I kind of feel like, though, James, right now, to me, it kind of feels like for Brooklyn, let me know, folks, is it championship or bust this season for this Brooklyn team, who, again, was kind of basically, put together overnight with what looked like a magic wand? Again, Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, Joe Harris, all these guys. Is this season for the Nets, despite this being the first year with all these guys in place, is this championship or bust in your mind for the Brooklyn Nets, folks? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Casey agrees with me, though. He says, Cal, I would agree with you, though. I'm still very skeptical though, about Brooklyn, but they're playing good. The Nets versus Bucks will be a good series in the next round, though. Brooklyn is definitely better, though, than Boston. I think that Milwaukee actually is better than Boston as well. And James agrees, though. Cal, it's sadly just Tatum versus the world right now. And also Taylor says, don't forget, though, Cal, there's no Kemba Walker either right now for the Celtics. And James agrees, so that, yes, it is, in fact, championship or bust for the Brooklyn Nets here tonight. I think it is. I mean, even though this is a first-year team altogether, this definitely has the feel, though, of this being championship or bust. And James wants that on further. When they got Harden via trade, that made it championship or bust in his mind. I definitely think it is. I would even think before they got Harden, James, they were building towards something great, though. When they added Harden, though, it was just like, okay, now it's on. So I definitely agree, though, that even to me, though, it feels like this is, in fact, a championship or bust for the Brooklyn Nets. Back out west, folks, the Phoenix Suns staved off getting in a 3-1 hole. They were able to hold off the Lakers, who suffered both a loss in the series and also another big loss, as once again, sadly, but Anthony Davis once again leaves a game early, suffering a groin strain as the Suns hold off the Lakers 192, holding the Lakers to 15 points in the third quarter. And were able to build a halftime lead and preserve it as they win 192. Led by 18 points from Chris Paul, who's been battling that shoulder issue all series. Jay Crowder and Devin Booker, 17 combined points each for those two gentlemen. DeAndre Ayton with 14, and also Mikal Bridges with 11 points, and also Christian Payne adding 13 off the bench for PHX, while the Lakers only had one player. That was, of course, LeBron James in double figures with 25 points. But again, Anthony Davis left this game after playing in 19 minutes with 6 points. But again, left the game due to what the Lakers are calling a left growing strain in this game. And again, the Lakers falling by the wayside. And I don't want to hear it's doom and gloom. I know that a lot of you out there want it to be doom and gloom, though. But for the Lakers, it may look to be that way. Because I kind of feel like, though, if the Lakers go into Game 5 on Tuesday without Anthony Davis, can you really rely, though, on LeBron James? Though he had the quote was saying that his shoulders are built to be able to, carry that pressure. I think it may, in fact, be leaning a bit towards doom and gloom, though, because the Lakers will have to get major production from a lot of their guys coming off the bench or guys to step up, though. And with also the one big thing I think that probably is a bit perhaps not talked about or perhaps undershadowed is no Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, because he got hurt in Game 3, as did Anthony Davis hurting his knee in Game 3, that the Lakers, I believe, are going to need major production and better outputs of scoring and more help if, in fact, Anthony Davis does not go in Game 5. I think that, of course, that they'll probably examine Davis over the course of tonight into Monday, and perhaps it could be, I think, literally, like Chris Paul, this could be a right before game time decision if Davis feels healthy enough to play. And I think, though, that Davis, if he does in fact play, I believe, though, that this may sound stupid, but I say you got to put Davis on a minutes restriction. You can't have Anthony Davis playing as many minutes as he does, because at this rate, you're looking at risking further injury at this rate. And also, I think if the Lakers do in fact fall behind 3-2, going back to LA, maybe, but I think if it goes to a full 7 games and the Lakers survive Game 7, who knows how much energy that this ball club will have left anyway in the tank to get through round 2. Again, perhaps playing, playing Portland or Denver in round 2, and then getting perhaps behind Game 3, but we'll see what happens. But I do think, though, that a lot of it still, I think, relies solely on Game 5. But also, I do have to give, props to the Suns for not playing dead and not rolling over. I mean, they, I think, had a much better shooting night today at Staples, and I think they played a lot better and shot the ball a lot better than how the Suns had shot the ball in Game 3. I also feel like, though, that the Lakers were just shooting the ball just to shoot the ball. The first half, I think, was a very telling sign, though, that the Lakers were not really in this game. To me, it looked like they were kind of mentally checked out for some reason. I don't know if it was because of, we got the lead 2-1, kind of, play some conservative ball, though. But I think, though, that even if you're a casual, basketball fan, or if you don't even like the Lakers, but you're just watching this game as a fan, though, you would agree with me, though, saying, why are you taking so many outside shots and so many 3-pointers? I have said that at this rate, though, and I said that today, though, to the MI6 host chat, that the Lakers cannot throw a pea into the ocean, to quote the late, great Chick Hearn. The Lakers just kept settling for jump shots and threes, jump shot, 3, get the ball in, get a rebound and jack up a shot with, 20 to go on the shot clock. There was no movement on the offensive end. There was no, and I think that the Lakers, you know why the Lakers won Game 3? Because they pounded the crap out of the ball in the paint. But this game, they chose to go the other way, go back to old habits in Game 1, and they elected to basically, settle for the mid-range jumpers. But the Lakers, of course, I think they have a mismatch. They had a mismatch with LeBron and AD over Ayton, and also, I think, over other, even over other big men on the Suns. But the Lakers, I think, though, if they want to win game 5, stop settling for shots away from the paint. Pound it inside, bully ball, whatever you call it with the Lakers. But that's why I think the Lakers have, lost today, was that their shot selection was so piss poor today. They, again, jumpers, elbow jumpers, 3-pointers, all the flashy passes and the pizzazz and the turnovers. That's not going to win you games. I mean, you're the defending champs though, but this team is nowhere close right now in my mind to getting back to the finals or even winning the damn thing because of the injury problems, but also again, just like this very up and down, turn it off, turn it on mentality right now. I don't like how the Lakers are playing right now, and I don't like how they played today though, because their offense was basically gone goodbye. Even before Davis left this ballgame again with all the, unnecessary jumpers, unnecessary threes, work it inside, drive the lane, that's all I can really ask for. And also, that's why you won game 3 in the first place. You were going inside like every other possession. It was a lob to AD, lob to LeBron, Schroeder driving in, and they went away from that game plan. I think the Lakers have got to buckle down and go back to driving it inside and also get guys into foul trouble. I think that's also why the Lakers won this game as well in game 3, because they got Crowder in foul trouble, Booker in foul trouble. I mean, you got to go inside and you have got to get in there and basically punish the Suns inside when you have that mismatch going in your favor. But again, it's all about the Suns tonight holding off the Lakers charge 192. But again, the Lakers losing both the game and also losing Anthony Davis due to a growing issue he suffered in this ballgame, and his status right now is currently to be determined for game number 5 back in Phoenix, or in Phoenix coming up on Tuesday. Plenty of thoughts about the Lakers' loss tonight against the Phoenix Suns. James first said that didn't seem like Booker did much for Phoenix, but Crowder did his part and more. But also, I think though, James, Crowder wasn't baited like he was in game 3 to being suckered into fouls and stuff like that. He played a better, much more composed game and didn't let fouls get in his head or let players get in his head, though. He played a heck of a ball game tonight, and Devin Booker didn't have his best game today. But I think he still helped out, though, in certain areas. And also, James says that the Suns bench was absolutely amazing. Again, had a very efficient night shooting the ball. Taylor also says that the Suns had better take the series, though. If they win game 5, again, I think that it's possible, Taylor. But again, is that playoff experience, though, for a team like the Suns, who's not been there in 11 years, will it be able to finish off the big bad Lakers? I personally still don't see it happening, but they have a golden chance, though, if in fact that Davis is out in game 5 to take take that 3-2 lead. But again, will that experience, though, of not being in the postseason for 11 years for majority of his ball club or certain players on the Phoenix Suns, minus Paul and Crowder and some other guys, though, will that hurt them? I think it does hurt them in a way, though. But I do believe, though, if in fact they get game 5, they have a very good chance to close out in game 6. James also adds on, I got to imagine that LeBron is going all out with or without Anthony Davis. I do, in fact, think, though, that he's going to have to be. I mean, and I think it would be the same way, James, it was vice versa. If LeBron was out and AD was fully healthy, it'd be the same exact way going on as well. James also says that AD sadly falls so much, where again, that wear and tear of him falling, I think, is a very big thing, though. And also, but again, though, I think as well, though, James, when you're a big fella like Davis, 6'10", 6'11", I think you're kind of expecting to get knocked down a lot, though, whether it's trying to take charges, going up for shots and taking the contact to get the foul, though. That wear and tear does, in fact, add up. Casey also says that, well, the Lakers series is going 7 in his mind, and with AD hurting, this could hurt the Lakers. LeBron can't win without Anthony Davis and vice versa. I still pick the Lakers in 7, and I'm going to stick to it, but it's going to be tough, and as supporting cast, and the Lakers is going to have to step up, and they cannot be going into Higgins route or down the Higgins route in game 5. They can't. They really cannot. And again, the Lakers just can't go into how they had played today. Again, you got to go back to game 3's game plan. Pound the paint and get guys on the Suns in foul trouble. James also says that AD is playing as long as he can, in my opinion. Without him, the Lakers don't have a chance unless CP3 is hurt again. And he also says that LeBron will have to probably score 50, to be honest, for the Lakers to win a ball game at this rate. And also, Casey says that, guys, the Suns are a good team, and you can't take them for granted. I think, though, Casey, to my point I made earlier in the week, though, they're out proving why they're the 2 seed, and that this was no fluke that they won 51 games this year. So they're definitely not a rollover play dead ball club. And again, they are the 2 seed for a reason in the Western Conference. And also, James says that once AD left the game, the Laker players looked defeated. I definitely agree, though, James. And something like I said, though, a lot, though, man, the psyche, the mental game becomes that much tougher, though, when you see one of your brothers go down and they get hurt. That's where things get hurt, or that's where things get bad. And also, James says, post up LeBron, and he should kick it out to shooters if you need to shoot from deep. But again, though, James, like I said, though, can you trust the Laker shooters to make threes when they had a terrible day shooting from beyond the arc today, where again they just cannot hit anything? And again, I would probably say, I mean, I don't know, it's a double-edged sword, but I would probably just say pound it inside and go from there. And also, our good man Anthony Roblejo checks in, saying, join WWE commentary with the exciting voice you have. I used to do fake matches with my stuffed animals when I was a kid, so I used to do that as well. And also, Anthony says that Isaiah does say hi as well. And Casey King says, maybe Isaiah cursed the Lakers. Wouldn't put it past him. And James also says that I have to believe that having Chris Paul helps your playoff chances. I do think so, but again, though, James, I still want to know about, that injury perhaps, though, again, is that, will that shoulder hold up, though, for at least 2 more games? But again, it is the Suns holding off the Lakers tonight from Staples Center. Final score once more, again, 192 Phoenix over the Lakers here tonight. And also, Anthony chimes back in to say, Devin Booker is the best player in the series. At least for the Suns, he is. I don't know about the entire series, but I think, though, he's had a great series so far. Finally, folks, in the NBA, the LA Clippers have gotten off the canvas and have gotten back in the series, taking both games in Dallas. 106-81 in favor of the LA Clippers over the Dallas Mavericks. This series now tied 2 games apiece. And heading back to LA for game number 5. Big night again for Kawhi Leonard, 29 points for Kawhi, 20 for Paul George, 10 for Nicholas Batum, and 15 for Reggie Jackson. As that the Clips get both games on the road down in Dallas, while again the Mavericks had a very rough night, though, from Luka Doncic and also from Kristaps Porzingis. Doncic with 19 points leading the way, Porzingis with 18, and Tim Hardaway Jr. has 4, while Finney Smith only has 8 in the game. And the Mavericks have reopened the door and let the Clippers back into the series, with them winning 106-81. Folks, this is a very, very interesting series now. That I know I said, the Clippers are done after game 1. They're down, they're done after game 2, though. This to me looks to be the series, though, that looks to be the series where it's going to be very hard for a team to win a home game at this rate right now, because we've seen Dallas win both games in LA. Now both games won by the Clippers on the road. Where is the home court advantage? Where is the home court advantage? And right now both teams have not been able to win a home game yet. But now I think this is where things get intriguing, though. A 2-2 series tie. And again, no one's won a home game yet. So I think that it really, boils down, though, to game 5. If the Mavericks win game 5 and go back to Dallas leading 3-2, this is going to be very, very interesting, because we may have a series, folks, where literally the home team may not win one single game. And I think today, though, sadly, I know that we heard the news, though, about Luka Doncic playing this game with a very, very, painful neck issue right now that he's been playing with. Again, and he did look bothered by that issue here today and by that neck stinger, that neck injury he's had. And again, he was also minus 16 today and plus minus 50. Again, he only has 19 points for Dallas. But now, though, this is going to be a very interesting series, though. Again, could you imagine, folks, if this series goes 7 games and literally not one single game gets won by the home team in the series? So that may very well happen. But again, it's all about the Clippers holding off the Mavericks tonight. 106-81 in favor of the LA Clippers here tonight over the Dallas Mavericks. And James agrees with me. He says, Cal, Luka was in pain the whole game, but man, credit to him for playing through the pain again. I think he has a very severe neck injury right now, or like a neck stinger he's having, or like a stiff neck, basically. And hopefully he'll be all right. James also says the Clippers look like they should be playing. Woken up now and charging forward. And also he says it's a 3-game series now, with a team having to win 2 games to move on. And Casey King agrees, saying that, boy, the Clippers have sure proved me wrong this weekend. Now the series could go either way. At this rate, I still like Dallas because Dallas has proven to get the job done on the road. And also that the Mavericks, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of it though still lies solely on Luka. I'm going to ride Luka for the whole series here. If he can overcome this neck stinger, this neck issue, I like Dallas's chances though. But again, Dallas has already proven that they can win on the road. So okay, both teams have proven that they can win on the road. If the pattern continues, Dallas wins Game 5. So I'm still going to ride with Dallas and ride with the Mavericks at this rate. But again, the Clippers win 106-81 over the Mavericks. And again, we have ourselves a 2-2 series heading back into LA for game number 5 coming up on Tuesday. Some big news, folks, over in the NFL. The Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons have begun the process of discussing a trade for Julio Jones. Per ESPN sources earlier on Sunday, the Falcons are still continuing to field calls from teams for Julio Jones. The Seahawks have had discussions about a potential trade with Atlanta for the receiver, per ESPN's Diana Rossini. Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson and Jones have been in touch, having phone conversations to discuss the possibility of playing together, per Rossini's reports for ESPN. Seattle already boasts a great number of talented wide receivers in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who each had 10 touchdown receptions and more than 1,000 yards last season. Sources also told her on Thursday that ATL is looking for a future first-round draft pick on the table for Julio Jones. Atlanta has also asked teams that they have inquired about Jones for a first-round draft pick in return, per Adam Schefter's report last Monday. But the Seahawks, though, do not have a first-round pick next year, as they dealt that to the Jets for safety Jamal Adams last season. Of course, though, folks, the rumor mill, though, about Jones began, though, last month when GM Terry Fontenot told reporters his team would be taking calls for the all-pro receiver. Then, of course, on Monday, Jones said, "I'm out of here," when asked about the Falcons in a telephone call with FS1 Shannon Sharp on the network's Undisputed Show, but unclear whether Jones knew the phone call was being televised on television that day. One other team that has, in fact, reached out per Rossini is the Tennessee Titans, perhaps also reaching out to the Atlanta Falcons. Folks, I believe, though, that Atlanta is going to have to get a lot in return here for Julio Jones. Now, Seattle, I think, could make sense, though. But again, I think the Seahawks have got to stop with getting the flashy receivers and go the route of some offensive line help to protect Russell Wilson. I think minus Joe Burrow last season, I think that Russell Wilson was probably going to be the most sacked quarterback last season. I think that it would be great for Seattle to get him. I don't like the move. I think you got to get some better guys on the offensive line, and maybe I think patch up the defense a little bit, though. But again, folks, give us your thoughts here real quick at this rate. He also says that James says that funny how the Seahawks wasn't one of the teams mentioned in trade rumors until recently. Christy Wilson says if Jones goes to Seattle, they could be a more dangerous team on offense. I agree, Christy, but at the same time, though, I want to see Seattle build a better line around Russell Wilson. I hate seeing this guy getting plastered every single time. It seems to me, again, in that playoff game against the Rams, he was basically a moving target out there against the Rams defense in the postseason. Got to get more offensive line help. I don't like the idea of them getting more receivers. James also says that forget it, Julio Jones should just go to New England instead. We'll see what happens. I mean, can Belichick can Bill Belichick, someone in a way, pull off another, amazing trade perhaps? Who knows? James says, I can definitely see Tennessee trading for Jones, but not the Baltimore Ravens. Again, I think that Tennessee could use a weapon. I think that more so I'd go Tennessee, and then, Tennessee, Baltimore, Seattle is like a tie for second place right now. Christy agrees with me, saying that the offensive line is more important for the Seahawks because Russell Wilson is getting killed out there. I definitely think that the O-line is more of a emphasis right now than the defensive, than the quarterback, and also than the receiving core. And also, Casey says that he's also heard about the Titans perhaps inquiring. We did in fact hear that, but again, folks, sources are saying again that right now that it could in fact be Julio Jones to Seattle, perhaps at this rate, for the trade perhaps happening at this point in time. here today. But again, folks, give us your thoughts here. Again, where do you probably perhaps see him perhaps going at this rate and at this point in time with the entire part of the potential trade here at this rate as well, folks. We are going to, in fact, step aside here. We have a bit more of we have more from that developing story that we broke earlier in the show in regards to the Celtic fan being thrown out of the, being arrested for throwing the water bottle. We do, in fact, have some more news, and here it is. Again, folks, a developing story that we broke at the top of the show tonight. But again, we had reported to you again that a Celtics fan tonight was arrested in Boston after, again, hurling a water bottle in the direction of Nets player Kyrie Irving after the game tonight on Sunday in Boston. Folks, I wanted to read a couple of thoughts here that actually came from this story from Danny Ainge of the Celtics, the president of basketball ops. Said via a radio interview earlier in the week, so right before the series here, that he had never heard any players say that they had dealt with any racism issues as a member of the Celtics in the past. Now, Ainge did say this on Thursday per 98.5, the Sports Hub in Boston, quote, that I think that we have to take these things seriously. I've never heard of anything of that caliber from any player that I've ever played with in my 26 years in Boston. I've never heard that before from Kyrie, and I talked to him quite a bit, so I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter. We're just playing basketball, and players can say what they want, close quote. Now, folks, a bit more about, this is adding a bit more to the context here about some other issues between Celtic fans more so than anybody else right now, but more so about Celtic fans kind of getting out of control. Sunday's bottle throwing incident was not the first time, though, or not first incident between players and fans in Boston. 2 years ago, inside a TD Garden, a fan was given a 2-year ban for yelling a racial slur directed at DeMarcus Cousins while he was with the Warriors back in January of 2019. The Celtics said via a statement at the time in 2019 that in the course of this investigation, we were able to conclude that the fan had been verbally abusive toward the Golden State bench, but none of the interviewed parties were able to verify the use of the language or racially offensive language, and video evidence provided proved to be inconclusive, close quote. They also said, though, via the statement, that in fact that the fan was a minor at that time. And the Celtics also said that based on their investigation that the fan would be banned for 2 years, and that net star Kevin Durant, who was with the Warriors during that time, again also said his quote, though, at the point of a full quote, folks, actually, that came from Kevin Durant, though, again, we showed part of his quote earlier in the show tonight. But Durant's full quote, though, reads that fans got to grow up at some point. I know that being in the house for a year and a half with the pandemic going got a lot of people on the edge, got a lot of people stressed out. But when you come to these games, you have to realize that these men are human. And then it also goes into the point, though, that we also talked about as well with this quote as well from Kevin Durant, though, that he also said, though, that we're not in the circus. Your mother would not be proud of you throwing water bottles at basketball players. Grow the bleep up and enjoy the game. It's bigger than you. But again, just kind of adding on a bit more to the story, again, in regards to that ongoing issue from the game on Sunday. James also says that in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, Celtic fans just did not like their black players, even Bill Russell. And James, I don't know if you know this, but I remember Torrey Hunter, Angel outfielder, twin outfielder, saying saying post his retirement that whenever he had a contract, he put a no-trade clause into Boston for that exact reason. So again, folks, that was a bit more added on to the story, again, about the Celtics fan once more. But the Celtics, again, had to arrest a fan after the game on Sunday after a water bottle was hurled in the direction of Kyrie Irving following the game tonight, per Malika Andrews and Tim Bontemps of ESPN.com. And also that the TD Garden spokesperson said via statement that, in fact, that the guests will be subject to a potential lifetime ban from TD Garden events because of the hurled water bottle in the direction of Kyrie Irving. Also, Christy Wilson says that Boston sports fans are incredibly passionate about their sports teams. They are, but I think, though, sadly, again, Christy, that whole fine line thing, again, these guys are human. I know that people want to criticize athletes all the time. But again, there is that fine line where, again, there's one thing to jeer and have the banter, but there's also when you kind of stoop to that low level again of the slurs, throwing beer, throwing water, popcorn, soda, pretzels, pizza, you name it. Again, I don't condone any of that nonsense, regardless. And James says, "Oh yeah, Red Sox fans are bad with this." Adam Jones a few years ago. It happened with Adam Jones as well a few years ago with a slur, and I believe he had a banana thrown at him too at that game as well in Boston. But again, folks, we'll keep an eye on that story, though, as more time does, in fact, go on here today. With that, folks, a Memorial Weekend tradition unlike any other. The Indy 500 ran earlier on Sunday from the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Sunday. And Spider-Man has done it again, folks. Helio Castroneves takes the lead late and wins the Indy 500 for the fourth time, joining a very small list of racers to win the coveted Indy 500 for the fourth time in his career. Folks, I tuned in for a bit today. Great to see, a full crowd at Indianapolis today. No weather issues, a balmy, great Sunday full of sun and full of a full house. And I think, though, as well, though, folks, Helio Castroneves, I think has got to be like one of the top, IndyCar racers probably of our time. Again, 46 years old, and joins a very small group of IndyCar racers to win the coveted event 4 times. Again, 3 other people have won this thing, though. And the final 15 laps was so intriguing because you didn't want to turn away from it. I know that there was other games going on, but I did flip over to watch, though, and to see that Castroneves, though, this guy never gave up, and this was a race that boiled down, of course, to the final 10. Again, it gets very intriguing, though, in the last 15 laps, though. But I don't know, though, if I've seen so many guys or so many people in NASCAR or in Formula One or IndyCar racing. I don't recall, though, seeing a lot of teams elect to go the route of the pit stop that late in a race, though. Especially, I think the leader at one point jumped ship and went to the pit, came right back down and retook the lead. But the final 4 laps, though, was when this thing got extremely, extremely good. And then Castroneves, though, finally got free because, it got a little bit hairy, though, because I think if you folks were watching, I always kind of dread the final few laps, though, because, yeah, it's like down to the wire, but then it gets a bit rough, though, because you have all the people or all the other drivers who are well behind the field. Somewhat in a way, though, interfering a little bit as you come down the final stretch run, and I kind of get nervous because, if these guys cause a wreck, we may have a massive issue on our hands here. But Helio Castroneves, though, folks, it boiled down to the final 2 laps because it was absolutely insane, though, that Helio takes the lead with about 2 laps to go, and he never looked back. He literally won this thing with flying colors. But again, I kind of, though, want to put, maybe not really blame, though, I think, kind of say the reason why Castroneves won this race, I think, was some very bad times or bad, or I think just, bad management by certain crews who elected to let their drivers take a pit stop for tires or to change the fuel out that late in the race. I think that some teams may have perhaps had it backfire, but I think that mainly, I don't want to, say that, that Helio only won it because of all that, though. I do think, though, it was sadly some poorly timed mismanagement, I think, by some crews today with why we saw this race go down to how it was, though. I think, though, that Helio Castroneves, though, folks, again, 46 years old. And again, Helio joins a very small group of drivers to win the Indy 500 4 times in their career. But again, congrats to Helio. And again, seeing Spider-Man once again climbing the fence at the Indy 500, again, kissing the bricks, and again, winning his 4th Indy 500 race here today. Also, James says, you could have told me Isaiah won the Indy 500 today, and I wouldn't have believed you. That's my fault because I never batted an eye today to the race. I knew it was on, James, but again, I only tune in, though, at this rate that, I think anyone agrees, though. I could probably get through the first few laps, but I can't watch it. I can't watch the whole race in its entirety. I can't watch golf in its entirety either. But I think, though, you always turn it on, though, for the final 10, 15, 20 laps when it kind of gets good, though. And I tune in at the right time, though. And again, I think, though, that the jubilation for Helio Castroneves to win this race today on Sunday, and to see the jubilation and also see him, again, how this win meant to him, though, in regards to, joining that small group again. He's the fourth driver to win it 4 times, but also I think as well, though, without having fans at the last race, though, again, with the pandemic going on and, no fans could be at the last race or it was canceled and things like that, though, and seeing a full house there, I think seeing the crowd at the Indy 500, though, I think just made Helio's victory for me a bit more enjoyable because of that going on. And also, James says that sadly a motorcycle racer passed away today. Such a dangerous profession. It's beyond crazy, man. And I give a lot, and I give all those action sports athletes, motorcycle riders, skateboarders, skiers, NASCAR and IndyCar. I give all those people so much love and respect, because again, that's a very dangerous profession. And again, it's all about the entertainment value. But again, folks, congrats once more to Spider-Man Helio Castroneves, your 2021 Indy 500 champion here on this Sunday. Here today is, again, Helio wins it with a late surge at the end, and in fact wins the race today, and again joins the very small group of drivers who have won the Indy 500 race 4 times in their careers. Also, folks, in some other news in international soccer, but the CONMEBOL, which is the South American Football Confederation, said on Sunday that Argentina will no longer be hosting the upcoming Copa America tournament, throwing the troubled soccer tournament into doubt just 13 days before it was due to kick off due to ongoing COVID-19 issues. The tournament, featuring 10 South American clubs, had been due to be held in Argentina and Colombia from June 13th till July 10th, the first time in its 105-year history with joint hosts. However, sadly, Colombia was removed as a co-host on May 20th after a wave of protests demanding social and economic change spread across the country, and Argentina has now followed suit due to what the federation is calling the present circumstances, which of course does in fact. Which is in fact linked, though, to COVID-19, though. But however, though, the federation did not disclose the nature of the circumstances of why the tournament was canceled, but it is due to what they are calling, again, present circumstances, but also a rising surge in COVID-19 cases. They also did say that updates would be available soon for the rescheduling of the tournament for the Copa America in Argentina. Folks, sadly, COVID is still is still rearing its ugly head. I mean, we're very close, though. But I know that, of course, though, folks, that right now, a lot of these major events going on, and James is right, though. The one event I think that we all, are very concerned about still is the Olympics. And I do, though, folks, James, think, though, that this may have to just become a case, though, where any big international event like this has got to be moved to next year. And I think, though, James, I'd love for that to happen, because I would love to see, I think we would love to see it. Let's do it next year. Summer Olympics and the Winter Olympics in the same damn year. 2022 could be the year of the Olympics and all about, all that going on. But again, folks, tough news for soccer fans out there. But again, the Copa America has in fact been postponed and suspended by the South American Football Confederation due to issues both in Colombia due to ongoing protests for social and economic change, and also present circumstances in Argentina, which again has been basically highlighted by a surge in COVID-19 cases across the country. And also, James agrees with his best Mike Breen impersonation by saying "bang" in regards to having the Olympics, both summer and Olympic games being held, summer and winter games being held next season, perhaps. A couple of stories, folks, from the NHL. Again, the postseason is still going on, but right now at this rate, per NHL sources, the NHL and health authorities are now beginning to work on a travel exemption that would allow the winner of the All-Canadian division and the American opponent to cross the border during the last 2 rounds of the postseason, including the Stanley Cup final, per a report obtained by the Canadian press. The exemption would let teams enter Canada for games without having to quarantine for 14 days, as it currently is required for non-essential travelers because of the ongoing pandemic, per the CP. citing two people in the federal government who spoke on condition of being anonymous because they were not authorized to speak publicly. The NHL has been trying to work to securing approval from public health officials in the provinces and cities that still have teams in the postseason, which includes Winnipeg, Toronto, and Montreal. Again, sources telling the CP. Final approval, though, rests with the federal immigration minister, Marco Mendicino. In an interview, an email to the Canadian press, the NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly said that the effort was a work in progress. Regardless, the winner of Monday night's Game 7 between Montreal and Toronto will play Winnipeg in the North Division final, with the winner going to the American Division, or at least going to the conference final. Cross-border travel has been essentially non-existent this year because of the ongoing pandemic. And last summer, the NHL ended their season with the bubble playoff in both Toronto and in Edmonton. Folks, this has been the really big talking point about how in the world is the NHL, probably the most, at this rate, the most, cross-border travel league in North American sports, because of the number of teams right now being played in the league right now, with 31 teams, and again, 6 of those teams being up in Canada. And now I think that it's become a bit more clear that now we kind of get a sense, though, of no 14, no 2 weeks, though. But I do think, though, that it's still, I think, though, is a little bit concerning, maybe a little bit in some people's minds, though, that now we're going to finally let cross-border travel resume, though. But I do think, though, that Canada, I think, again, whatever you believe, folks, about the pandemic, though, I think that Canada has done their damnedest to keep this, somewhat at bay. And I know, of course, this probably has sucked, though, for fans in Toronto, in Winnipeg, and in Montreal, and in Edmonton to not be able to go to games this year, though. But I do think, though, that the NHL can make this work, though. I really thought, though, that maybe that there could have been a ordeal done basically to maybe once you got to the conference final, make it into a bubble environment. I know that you've been playing games all year in your home markets, but again, though, with the nature of the of the travel and the nature right now of, again, having to perhaps cross that closed border. But if they can get that exemption, though, folks, if the NHL gets that exemption, if they get that exemption, I have got to believe, though, that eventually that the Blue Jays ask for an exemption, and so does Toronto FC. I think, and I think that eventually that the Blue Jays and Toronto FC have got to get that exemption. I would think that at this rate, though, that if the NHL gets this done, though, I could totally see the Blue Jays and Toronto FC saying, wait a second, wait a second here. Why are you allowed to get an exemption, but why can't we get an exemption to play our home games in Canada? So again, folks, I think it's kind of a little bit of a double-edged sword or a ticky-tack situation. But I think, though, the NHL will make this work. But I do think, though, that they're probably going to be having to perhaps monitor the situation and maybe get things back up to snuff, though. But this is at least, though, folks, the first major, positive step forward, though, of, hey, now we're going to be going into having teams travel across the border like we're getting back to normalcy very, very shortly. But again, folks, the NHL is, in fact, working on a plan to be able to travel across the border and open things up at this rate. Some small spattering of thoughts here in regards to thoughts about this at this rate. James says, it would not seem right without the Canadian teams competing for the Stanley Cup, with Christie agreeing. And also, James says, a club from Canada has not won the Stanley Cup in years, I think. And also, Christie says, and I agree, just so that the NHL can make things work. And yes, James, last time that a Canadian team won the Cup, 1993 Montreal over the Kings. Thank you, Marty McSorley, for that. One final story here, folks, tonight for the night shift on this Sunday. Peter DeBoer, the head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, is not second-guessing his decision to start goaltender Robin Lehner in Game 1 of the second round, despite Lehner being hung out to dry in a 7-1 loss in Game 1 to the number 1 seed and President's Trophy winning Colorado Avalanche on Sunday night at Ball Arena in Denver. Vegas started Marc-Andre Fleury throughout the entire first-round series against Minnesota, including Friday's Game 7 win at T-Mobile Arena. Fleury posted a .931 save percentage through that series, though, while Lehner has not played a game since May 10th. DeBoer said that the decision to go with Robin was Flower just played 7 games in 14 days in an emotional Game 7. It was a perfect opportunity in our minds to use our other starter. That's been a strength of ours all year. We wanted Robin to get in the game and stay sharp in case we need him. So there was a lot of rationale to it. Close quote. Vegas indeed had a quick turnaround while Colorado had a week off between games thanks to the Avalanche's 4-game sweep of St. Louis, and it showed as the Avalanche looked much fresher on home ice on Sunday. Vegas only got 14 shots on goal in the first period, or allowed 14 shots on goal in the first period, despite averaging just 9.4 shots on goal in the first period against the Wild in the series. And Leiners faced 37 shots and only stopped 30 in the ballgame. DeBoer also said that the game tonight was not about Robin Lehner. We didn't play well enough in front of him, close quote. You know, folks, this is the wrong time to start messing up with your team's mojo. This, I believe, this could be a death nail. That Peter DeBoer would go the route of not playing Marc-Andre Fleury, the guy that got you into the spot in the first place. And by the way, you are playing the number 1 seed and the best and the President's Trophy winner. This is not the time to start, okay, I get the rest. I get that he played all 7 games in 14 days versus Minnesota. But you need your best guys out there. And again, Vegas is playing, this is a major uphill battle. You're playing Colorado, the number 1 seed in the conference, and the President's Trophy winner with the best overall record. And at the same time, though, you're playing probably the most lethal forward lineup in the NHL. Landeskog, McKinnon, McCarr, Colorado's offense, they're no pushover, and they will make you look silly. And I think that tonight they'll prove, though, that Colorado definitely, in fact, made the Vegas Golden Knights look silly for going the route of playing DeBoer or playing Leonard tonight, though. And again, Peter DeBoer having to face him, though. And again, also the fact, though, that DeBoer doesn't pull the goalie to put in Fleury as in a backup role. That, to me, reminds me way too much of Patrick Wall with the Canadiens way back in the day when he got left in to give up all 10 goals to the Red Wings that night. That this is not the time to start messing up your mojo. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I do think that we will in fact see Fleury in Game 2, because I do think, though, that if Vegas is down 2-0, even going back home to that amazing venue in Vegas, they're in trouble, because Colorado, this offense does not have any holes. Again, Gabriel Landeskog, Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, these are not, these 3 guys that I listed, they will make you pay. And tonight they made the Knights pay for, I think, probably the stupidest move of the postseason to sit, Fleury, a bona fide Stanley Cup champion in Pittsburgh, and who literally single-handedly got them to the Cup final their first year. This is not the time to start messing up with your team's mojo. And I hope that DeBoer, goes back to Fleury. I think, though, if he goes back to Leonard in Game 2, and if he goes that route again in Game 2, there's got to be a very short leash on Leonard. If he gives up 1, 2, maybe 3 at most, I'd say if he gives up 2 at most, if they go with Leonard in Game 2, you've got to pull him. There is no way that you should be going the route of changing up changing anything. Now, I think, though, but sadly, that tonight's game was also very much further impacted because of Ryan Reeves being the goon that he is out there and racking up some major penalty minutes, though, which really, in fact, gave Colorado that chance to just, bury Vegas right away, though. But I think, though, that for Peter DeBoer's sake, you've got to go back to Marc-Andre Fleury. This is not the time to be going the route of trying to get your backup goalie minutes and trying to get him, to keep him sharp again. Like I said, though, Fleury played all 7 games. Robin Lehner has not played a game since May 10th. What are you doing, man? May 10th and then you literally have a guy playing all 7 games. No, if they fall behind 2-0, it's all but over, because Colorado's offense, they're not going to be having any rough nights at the office. Again, with Landeskog, with Rantanen, and all those guys, Colorado, I think, is poised to probably get to the Cup final, perhaps win the damn thing. But Vegas, this is not your time to be tinkering and changing things up because you want to get a guy playing time. Again, he has not played since May 10th. Come on now. Also, some thoughts real quick. Casey King agrees that the Avs, I believe, are going to be the team to beat this year. They definitely are. Again, with that lethal offense, I don't see anybody slowing this team down. I thought that Vegas could have perhaps been that team to slow them down, maybe knock them out. But after tonight's game and after that despicable move by Peter DeBoer, I think Vegas is done, honestly, at this rate. James also says, isn't Marc-Andre Fleury better? Ha ha. There's a jealousy somewhere in this. And you know what, though, James? That was talked about a lot last season when Peter DeBoer came in after they fired Gerard Gallant last season, that there's a beef that we don't know about between Peter DeBoer and Marc-Andre Fleury. I even believe that Fleury's agent put a photo out, I think, on Instagram after the Knights got knocked out in the playoffs last season that had a picture of of Fleury with all these swords in his back, like kind of being stabbed in the back by his head coach. So I believe that there's definitely there's something going on there. And I don't know how much longer Fleury has left in the tank, though, with all of his time playing in Pittsburgh. I don't see how this relationship. I think, honestly, James, if Colorado knocks out Vegas, as I think that they're probably going to, I don't see Marc-Andre Fleury coming back, honestly, because that rift between DeBoer and him and his agent is just it's growing. It's being stretched out like a rubber band very, very slowly. And I think that as, in fact, that more time goes on with this whole snafu, I don't expect Fleury back in Vegas anytime soon. James says, I don't know too much about the NHL, but man, that's a bonehead decision. And Christy says, tinkering with your goalie is not a good idea, especially when going up against a team like the Avalanche. Again, 7 goals tonight for Colorado. And again, Rantanen, Landeskog, McKinnon. I mean, all bets are off. I do, in fact, think this is all about Colorado at this rate. And James says, this sounds like it's about 20 years ago when you say the Avs are great. I mean, those teams, though, were even 20 years ago. I mean, Bork, Sakic, Forsberg, Waugh. I mean, some Adam Foote, some great guys on those Avalanche teams back in the day. Casey says, I picked Colorado to win it all before the season started, and I'm sticking to it. Vegas went Higgins route on their goalie situation in round 1. He also says, if Vegas does not start Fleury in game 2 and they end up getting swept, DeBoer should be fired. They should not have fired Gerard Gallant. Casey, I would think that, I mean, I don't know about a sweep, though, but it could, in fact, be inevitable if they go down 2-0, even if they go back home, that they're going to be in trouble. And James says, man, it sounds like the Tom Brady situation a bit. Not a lot, but a little bit, though. But again, folks, Peter DeBoer, the head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, is not questioning his decision to not start Marc-Andre Fleury in their 7-1 loss tonight to the Avalanche up at Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. With that, though, folks, we'll now wrap things up for this solo host of Night Shift and go on into tonight's final thoughts. Time to wrap things up here, folks, on this Sunday night, this solo-hosted edition of the Night Shift. A major thanks to Taylor, James, Christy, also Jim Gahn, as well, Brandon Herrera, Casey King, and all of our great fans for commenting tonight and for, again, keeping us sane here tonight. Again, folks, we'll see you back here on Monday for another episode. Or actually, excuse me, we'll be off air on Monday to observe the Memorial Day holiday. Of course, a major thank you to all of our brave men and women who have served in the armed forces for America and for any home nation at home and around the world. So we will see you folks back here on Tuesday for the Night Shift, or actually not even for the Night Shift, for the Sports Lounge. Our first actual sports program comes your way for the Lounge on Tuesday, 8 o'clock Pacific time, right back here inside of the MI6 Sports Network. And again, folks, as a reminder, go and check out and see our great friends over too at the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. Again, Adam and Jason Barber and the entire cast and crew with their ongoing efforts to get their programs going. Again, everything is over there, folks. So again, catch them over on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. Again, find them by just typing in Coast to Coast Entertainment Network on your favorite social media platforms. But again, folks, for the entire cast and crew here from the MI6 Sports Network, yours truly, Callan McClurg, saying goodnight. We'll see you folks back here, as mentioned, on Tuesday for the Sports Lounge at 8 o'clock Pacific time, right back here inside of the MI6 Sports Network. Till Tuesday, folks, good night and bye-bye.